It's not always easy to do something different, to do something that's uncomfortable, to step out of your comfort zone and try to be unique. And that's exactly what Zero Strain attempted to do with its gameplay that was inspired both with bullet hell shoot-'em-ups, but also twin-stick shooters. I've always been a big fan of both of these genres, the twin-stick shooters and also the shoot-'em-ups, and I thought that when these two things met together that it could very well create something that is somewhat unique and very fun to play. With this game, it's a little more hit than miss, but the execution ends up being a little more imperfect than I would like. And let me start here as I begin to critique all of the elements of this game by saying that my initial experience with this game was very positive. The look and feel and just the overall aesthetic of the game really fits what it's trying to do with being a shooter. And while the soundtrack might be just above average or possibly even good, the sound effects make up for that in being spot on. The game mechanics aren't overly complicated. You start out going level by level after you've finished the tutorial, of course, and as you complete levels, you gain parts to build new ships, and those new ships can play the old levels, only this time using a different set of abilities and a different set of special weapons for each level. This allows you as the player to replay all of that old content, but do so in a pretty fresh and new way. I found this to be fairly fun, even going through those first few levels with all the new ships that I was gathering as I played the game. But even with this better than most veneer and a fairly good gameplay mechanic set, there were some critical flaws with this game that make it more of a mixed recommendation from me. The first is that though this game tries to be a bit of a bullet hell game, I found that there's just a little too much going on as far as bullets and explosions, and it's difficult to see what is heads and tails in each dogfight that you find yourself in with the enemies. This means that you're going to take a lot of hits that you wouldn't possibly be able to see coming, but the mechanics of this game actually make up for that a little bit, and they're a little forgiving. When you have your shields drained and you can actually start having your health chipped away, the game allows the shields to be regenerated if you don't take damage for some amount of time. Now this just covers up the problem, but I think it does so in an okay way. My preference for this somewhat minor imperfection would be that it would be more skill-based and allow more cues for the player to be able to see those bullets or see those environmental factors coming into play so that they could be more readily dodged. In the end, it feels like this is a little bit of a game flaw with a workaround. The final execution is definitely passable, but it does hold the game back as far as mechanics are concerned from being really great. More importantly, and my biggest complaint about this game though, is the controls. This issue became very clear to me from the very beginning of playing the tutorial. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this review, this is a twin-stick shooter. Except this is not really a twin-stick shooter because this game controls with just the left stick. Instead of having the right stick control your aiming, they use a smart aiming mechanism that some sort of code controls which enemy that you want to shoot at. I assume that it's the closest enemy to you as long as the enemy is close enough to you to aim at. But this has some very predictable flaws in the way it executes. For instance, many times when fighting a boss, you'll end up with a bunch of minions in the field at the same time you're fighting the boss, and the game really likes to target the minions even though you want to focus on the boss. So this results in a game of cat and mouse where you're trying to get whatever you're targeting on the other side of the boss so that your bullets when firing will shoot at the boss and not at the minion as they try to pass through him. This choice ends up feeling very obtuse and ends up making the player behave in ways that don't feel natural in order to get the outcome that they're looking for. And this is kind of what bums me out about this game, is that most of what's left of the game is a pretty good game. I just felt that the controls really needed to be tweaked to allow for that twin stick shooter mode. In fact, this doesn't seem like it would be something that would be too difficult, so perhaps the developer at some point could add a twin stick control set to this game, and that would solve the majority of the issues that I had with this game. In the end, it's a fun little shooter. It's not too deep. In fact, once you hit the gameplay loop after about 4 or 5 levels, it begins to get a little bit repetitive, but that's just how these shooters work. You see different things in them, but you know the mechanics and you're just kind of doing the same thing with more bullets and more enemies and bigger, badder enemies. I think that's okay. I think that's to be expected from these genres. It does seem worth mentioning though for this game, since I played this one on the PS4, that this game has an incredibly easy set of trophies to do. And I know that that may appeal to some people. At some point in my life, that would have very much appealed to me. I've done a number of easy platinums in my catalog of games that I've played. This one took me about 3 hours to complete. It's not particularly easy. There is a little bit of a challenge to it, but it doesn't even make you go through the entire game in order to achieve the platinum. So if you're looking for an easy platinum game, depending on the cost of this one could be fun for you to do, particularly if they ever add that twin stick control method. For Zero Strain, I am recommending this one only for big fans of shooters or big fans of big platinum trophies. If you haven't hit like on this video, make sure you do that because it helps my channel out quite a bit. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you go take a look at my other content because I have a lot of varying different stuff that I do. A lot of reviews, definitely. Check those out, and if you like those, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, this has been Pixel.